Attendance.
Councillor Gatward has advised that she's away, and Councillor Simons has just emailed me that she will not be attending.
Thank you. We have an agenda. There is an addendum. It's been changed. Any member of council have an item they wish to add to this agenda? None? Motion to approve the agenda plus addendum, please. Councillor Bauman, seconded by Councillor Pearce. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
Excuse me, when did you want me to do this?
Pardon?
When did you want me to do this?
At the beginning.
Okay.
The CAO wishes to make an announcement at this time.
Well,
A very good one.
that's a good one. Thank you, Worship. I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce to you our new fire chief, Mike Seth. Some of you probably met him. I know those at Community Services and a few others have probably met him. But Mike, we're very happy to have Mike. He's been with us now 2 full weeks, is it? 2.5?
Oh, 2 full weeks, starting my 3rd.
Yeah, starting the 3rd week. It's amazing. And he came to us from Thorold, where he was the fire chief there, and prior to that he was a fire chief at Six Nations, as well as being in charge of emergency services, so it was a combined portfolio. Prior to that, he started his professional career, I guess you'd call it, as a paramedic for the county of Brant, way back in time. Not that far back in time, he's not that old. So we're happy to have Mike, and it would be all right if he said a couple words, Your Worship?
Please, invite him. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council, for having me, and I'm being lucky enough to come and work for the county. It's felt like a bit of a homecoming coming back here, and I'm looking forward to a long time of making some positive growth and progression in service and in the county. Other than that, I'm relatively a guy of few words, and I invite each and every one of you to come to my office and have a visit and have a chat and see where I'm looking at taking the service forward. Thank you.
We certainly hope to carry out your wish for a long stay. Thank you. We'll move along to, declaration of pecuniary interest by any member of council at this time. None? Next is delegations, etc., and presentations, and A is the presentation being the annual general meeting of the Brant Municipal Enterprises. We have the annual report and some financial information, etc., for council's perusal. And I am the chair of the Brant Municipal Enterprises. Michael Bradley is the CAO, and who's that gentleman? Bruce Telfer is the general manager.
Noble, Mr. Chair.
He's the, how did I get that name down? He's the general manager, and our treasurer also is here, I believe. Is it our treasurer?
No, she's not here this evening, Mr. Chair.
She didn't make it. Thank you. Would you please proceed with your presentation?
Thank you, Your Worship. And this is the annual general meeting for Brant Municipal Enterprises for the financial year of 2016, January 1st to December 31st, 2016. I have a short presentation to just review and some of the accomplishments we made in 2016, which I think are detailed in a little more comprehensive manner in the annual report. Brant Municipal Enterprises, I think, as everyone knows, we have 2 primary business units, Brant Renewable Energy and Brant Fiber Optics. I'll talk a little bit about the activities of those 2 entities later. We also have a set of business objectives, and they're laid out in our annual report. But I just wanted to pick out what I would call the key phrases of those objectives: collaborate, maximize value, invest and enhance in existing and new assets, explore business opportunities, and act as a business resource. And I think our annual report continues to reinforce that we are certainly achieving those objectives for the shareholder of the County of Brant. 2017, I think our most significant undertaking with the board was to develop a new strategic plan. We visualize this strategic plan will carry us for 5 years, and it'll help us basically create a roadmap on how we'll continue to operate and grow the business. It has 4 primary objectives, and then each objective has a set of goals. The goals are listed there, but the objectives are to facilitate the renewable generation and conservation of energy, to build a globally connected community, to create a prosperous county of Brant, and to maintain a resilient organization. And so I consider these objectives to have 3 kind of core focuses. The first focus would be captured in Objective 1 and 2, which is to grow and prosper the business. So that's an outward or external focus. The third objective is more of a community focus. It's really we want to make the community a better place to live in even a small way. And our business, both of our business activities, are green energy and energy-focused businesses, as well as fiber optics, does make the community a better place to live. It hooks people up to high-speed telecommunications, and it creates sustainable energy. And the final focus is an inward focus. It's to make sure that our business is sustainable, it's appropriately staffed and appropriately financed, and that it doesn't have any significant risks to it. So that's what our strategic plan captures, and the board worked hard on this. We met, I think, over about a 3-meeting period focused on this strategic plan, and then the sub-goals are noted in the plan. A fairly significant achievement in 2017 was the completion of a 250 kilowatt solar energy plant on the roof of the Burford Community Center. So this was another partnership project with the Brant Sustainable Community Energy Cooperative. So they own 30% of this project, and the county owns the remaining 70%. And BME was delighted to build this, as well as the other projects from that partnership. So this is a great example of what we've achieved at BME. We're becoming, I think, experts in the development of small to medium-sized solar plants on rooftops. And this project went off without a hitch. It went very, very smoothly. And this project will generate about $95,000 a year in revenue for the county. So it's something that we can be quite proud of. Another one of our accomplishments over the 2016 was the refurbishment or replacement of the County of Brant's 3,200 Cobra Head streetlights. So we switched the old metal halide streetlights out with these new LED fixtures. This was approved back in March by County Council. And this project also went, we believe, very well, and I give Mr. Noble and his team a lot of credit for pulling this off in a 6-month period. You'll recall we went to RFP for a product that we thought would meet the needs of the community. We then built basically a service strategy to get them put up, and then we commenced the project, I think, in around May, and we worked at it throughout May, most of the summer, and into the fall. At the end of the project, we had about 29 lights that were reported as failures. And then when we dug into them, some of them had some subtle electronic problems or connection problems, but only 6 of them were defective. So we only actually had to take 6 of those lights down and stick 6 new lights up, which was all covered in warranty. So we look at that as a real successful project. And I think the other thing we were quite pleased with is the limited amount of what we would call public comment on the project. We didn't have a lot of feedback or negative feedback. We had a few people that would call and ask questions, and Mr. Noble and his team would get out there, meet with people, and I think for the most part, most of the community is very satisfied with these new lights. And if you look at them and you can find an old light somewhere, there's still a few privately owned metal halide lights. The difference in the quality and the spectrum of light is quite impressive, and these are I think a win for the community. Of course, the value, and we captured this in this year's budget, is a $300,000 a year energy savings over the old lights. So that's added, and the incentive for the county to do this. We had a lot of other good news stories in 2016 as well. We received contracts for the Adidas project, a solar energy project at the Adidas project, a hydroelectric facility at the Paris Dam, also another solar project at the Scotland Community Centre, as well as another private project. We continued to make small additions, and you can see there's some of our workforce there in the picture, making small additions to our fiber optic network, connecting new clients, and connecting new pieces of apparatus. And there's our fiber line right there on the bottom of a hydro pole. it's hard to get a really impressive photo of fiber optics. I asked Bruce to do this, and this is the best he came up with. So, and I think the big news for us in 2016 was the announcement of the funding of the SWIFT program. That's the Southwest Integrated Fiber Technology Project. There was $200 million announced in 2016, and member communities, of which the County of Brant is one of them, will be able to access some of that $200 million to build fiber optics, and I'll have a little bit more to say about that later. We continue to look at new business opportunities. We're doing a pilot study on cogeneration. Cogeneration is basically a system where we would generate electricity. We would capture probably by using natural gas. We would then capture the heat that comes off that generation to use to heat a building, and the idea is you end up with a lower overall operating cost. You reduce your electricity costs and you reduce your heating costs. So we're doing a pilot. We got external funding from the government to do a pilot on that, and we're going to do a pilot on the Brant Sports Complex to see if cogen would be feasible for that facility. So stay tuned. If the business case works out for that, we'll certainly be coming to council and discussing that with you. We also started our first net metering solar energy project. So you'll recall most of the old solar energy projects that we've been doing have been through the FIT program. That's a subsidized rate for power. Net metering is where basically you put up a solar plant, you use the power for your own facility, and you sell the surplus into the grid. And so we're doing our first one for a client right now, and we're continuing to look at net metering models to kind of make sure that we've got a business approach that can make this sustainable. We believe this is the future, and it was indicated in my report, this is the future of solar energy generation here in the province. And we've done a few lighting upgrades for some clients as well. So we learned a lot through the street lighting project, and because some of our clients have liked working with us with solar projects, they've asked us to do some lighting work. So we've forayed into that area as well quite successfully. So our 2017 activities, just a few that I wanted to mention. This is getting a bit ahead of our 2016 annual report, but I think the big news for us is we have now qualified as a vendor of record for the SWIFT program. So we, and Mr. Noble and his team spent a lot of time submitting to a very complex RFP process for the SWIFT program, and just a couple of weeks ago we were notified that we are indeed going to be eligible to basically build fiber optics in the County of Brant through the SWIFT program. So we're extremely excited about that, and we think 2018 is going to be a fiber build year for us, and we're ramping up for that now. We're continuing to look at net metered solar projects like I talked about. We're looking at a lot of other new technologies as well. I talked about cogen, and we're continuing to explore that. We've got energy management technology that we're examining that we hope we could bundle with some of our other projects for clients, as well as new generation technologies. The final thing that we've just done recently in 2017 is we've updated the BME's 5-year business plan. This plan will have a 10-year horizon, and it's got a number of new business ventures in it. And so we'll be going through with the board some of these business ventures, testing them out, and then some of them will likely be coming in front of this council because, you know, we may be looking for some county involvement or even just some county support and principle. So I'll just quickly touch on the financial statements for 2016. We had a good year. The income statement, as you'll see, indicated we did generate a profit of $251,000. That's it's about a $60,000 increase over our 2015 earnings. So we're pleased that the company's performing well. We're mindful of both expenses and delivering quality to our clients, and we think that's showing up in our statements. Our balance sheet, which I won't bring up here, is fairly stable, and it was not a significant investment year. We do have a lot of turnkey activities, and so they don't change our balance sheet a lot. And our cash flow position is quite strong. One thing we did shed this year, we used to serve in a bit of a middleman role for the county water and wastewater billing between the county and Brant County Power. Once having sold Brant County Power, you'll recall I brought a report directly to council this year to enter into an agreement directly with Energy Plus for them to do our billing. So we're out of that middleman position, and so we're not holding those big lumps of cash that we used to in the transition of that billing. So that's helped our cash flow, but it's also changed our cash flow position a little bit. So, Mr. Chair, or Your Worship and Mr. Chair, that is my report of this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions. The only things I require this evening is for a recommendation to receive BME's 2016 annual report, if council is prepared to do that. And then the one other task I have every year is to submit a confirmation to the shareholder that, to the best of our knowledge, we are acting in compliance of the terms, conditions, and obligations of the shareholders' declaration, which I will submit to the clerk at this time. Happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Members of council have had as both reports, of course, with the dispersal of the agenda for this meetings, so perhaps you're acquainted with it. Questions, Councillor Carter?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Michael. Michael, at one time we had talked a bit about the potential for nitrogen energy, how that's working in the U.S. now with the state of Indiana and what they're doing to put in 40 megawatt systems of nitrogen power generation, and they're paying about 7 cents a kilowatt for that. Are these types of things that we're going to look to into the future, possibly new opportunities and things like that through our company?
Your Worship, through you, yeah, one of the things that Mr. Noble and I are constantly doing is we're constantly monitoring what I call evolutionary technology, and in the energy space, there's a lot of it right now. We saw a perpetual motion machine not too long ago, which was quite fascinating and could change the world. But so we're constantly watching these new technologies come out. So that's just one of them. At the same point, our focus is really to build what we know, but be mindful, as I talked about, of the new technologies. So the answer is yes, and it's a bit of a longer answer.
Thank you.
Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, thank you for that presentation. It was very interesting. A couple of questions, if I could. For objective number 3 there, you got create a prosperous county of Brant, and one of the lines underneath you have undertake an employment land development project. Can you give me an example of what you'd be looking at there?
Mm-hmm. Certainly, Mr. Chair, and without getting too deeply in the through you, Mr. Chair, getting too deeply into our business plan, we have been modeling out what it would look like for BME to do an employment land development project. For us to buy and service a piece of land like the county does is probably not going to be economical, but one of the spaces we do think we could do is to take some existing service land and put up a building and lease it out to people, and then we could look at even creative approaches to that, such as focusing on a tech or energy hub type of atmosphere. So that's kind of where we're thinking in terms of an employment land development strategy, where BME could find a good niche in the space. So.
Okay, very good. And if I could, Mr. Mayor, follow.
Yes.
I noticed in the advertising and promotion, it's about double what it was last year. Can you give me an idea of have you just expanded or just gone into different areas of advertising? Can you explain that?
Certainly, thank you. Through you, Your Worship. So, in anticipation of the SWIFT program, I wanted to ramp up our advertising budget for this year. Now, whether we spend it or not is I'm sorry, you're talking 2016, yeah.
Yeah,
2016, we did quite a bit of advertising for the streetlight renewal. We did a big basically marketing campaign ahead of time so we could get out basically to every revenue. So that's what that line was. It was captured in that line. But maybe just to go further now, we don't do a lot of advertising as an organization. We tend to rely on goodwill and the good results we have from our clients. But with the SWIFT program, we're going to be hopefully moving into some new territories with fiber optics, and we are probably going to commence a fairly robust marketing campaign into those new areas. So.
Excellent. And one final one, if I could, Mr. Mayor. How many employees do we have? Does BME have?
Thank you. BME right now has 2 full employees. I provide some support, and then the county provides a treasurer and some human resources support, and we do that through a services agreement. So BME is small.
Thank you.
Any other question? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Michael. Can you just elaborate a little bit further on Councillor Pierce's question? Like, with 2, and I asked this question last year, we're down 1 since then.
Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could, through you, didn't quite answer my question, because it was my understanding at the meeting we had that we were